F1 is one of the most dangerous sports in the world, but over the last 30 years, F1 has introduced several safety precautions to help protect drivers. How do medics get vital information from the driver when they are trapped in their cars? And which part of the car is bulletproof? Stay tuned to find out all that and more. First up, the Halo system. The Halo. For those who don't remember, this one was very controversial. The Halo was introduced into F1 in 2018 and is a crash protection system installed on top of the cockpit to stop objects from hitting the driver. Sounds pretty standard, right? Well, for a lot of motorsport enthusiasts, which is just about everybody that works in the industry, the Halo was downright offensive. It was seen as obstructing the aesthetics of the car's design. At the time, Lewis Hamilton called it the worst modification ever made to a Formula One car and promised that if given the choice, he would not be using it on his car. Max Verstappen also said that the Halo was going too far and there would always be a risk with motorsport anyway. It was opposed by 9 out of the 10 teams, so it wasn't very popular. That was until it was introduced. In that very season, it saved the life of Charles Leclerc when Fernando Alonso's McLaren landed on top of him. The Halo stopped Alonso's car from hitting Leclerc's head. This was enough to win over many critics of the system, including Toto Wolff. Then again last season, Max Verstappen's Red Bull landed on top of Lewis Hamilton's Mercedes, with only the rear tire touching Hamilton's helmet instead of the entire weight of the car. Hamilton admitted that he felt grateful for the introduction of the Halo that likely saved him from serious injury. Next, biometric gloves. Devices are now stitched into the gloves of F1 drivers to monitor critical information like heart rate and oxygen levels. This can be life or death in the event of an accident or a big crash. The data is sent through Bluetooth as far as 500 meters away from the car, and this information is used by the medical teams to assess the seriousness of an accident. In 2016, Williams first used biometric technology to help improve their pit stops. They gathered data from their pit crew about their heart rate, breathing, recovery, and pulse rate through bioharnesses and biometric gloves. This did have a big effect. It reduced their pit stops from 3.5 seconds down to 1.92 seconds, which in F1 is a massive advantage. And it looks like biometrics could be part of more than just the gloves, but the racing overalls too. A racewear manufacturer, Alpenstars, is developing full-body sensors to help make drivers as comfortable as possible by better understanding which parts of the body are more stressed than others. The idea is that if they are more comfortable, they will be able to concentrate and perform better. Now we have defensive technology. If you've been to an F1 race before, you'll know that the view is not always as good as on TV. There could be a bunch of different things in the way, but the biggest is often the safety and protection barriers designed to protect you. Debris fences are used on the perimeter of all racetracks to help stop loose objects flying off and injuring spectators or bystanders. They also help to minimize the damage that a car takes if it crashes into the fence. New debris fences have been approved by the FIA for use at Formula One circuits. The new fences cut down the gap between posts from 6 meters to 4 meters. Now, this may not sound like a lot, but it will make spectating from the crowd a whole lot better. There will be fewer poles in the way, and so the view will be less obstructed. As a bonus, the fences are safer than the older ones. Up next, the hands device. Drivers' heads are the most important thing to protect in motor racing. Not only is it where they see from, but damage to the head is often the most serious. This is why they all wear big, thick helmets. But have you also noticed a neck brace that drivers wear during the race? You can normally see it when they get out of the car, and it looks like a big collar that keeps their head in place. This piece of equipment is known as a head and neck system, which is called HANDS for short. It was developed in the 1980s, but was only introduced as a mandatory safety device in 2003. The device is made of carbon fiber and hooks into both the harness and the helmet. It is designed to keep a driver's head, neck, and shoulders in line and to stop the neck from hyperextending. Before the device was introduced, small injuries to the head or neck could be fatal. With the HANDS device, the driver's head moves with the torso to avoid serious damage of whipping backwards or forwards. Did you know that a piece of an F1 car is designed to be bulletproof? Or that technology being developed by Formula One could be a revolution for fuel? Don't go anywhere to find out more. Next, refueling. This one is not so cutting edge, but it was a big change in the sport. Before 2010, F1 cars used to come into the pits not just for tires, but also to refuel. There would be a mad dash to get a big spaceship-looking pump attached to the car and to fill it up. One mechanic would be tasked with getting the fuel hose into position and putting it into the car. This would make a pit stop last from 7 to 12 seconds, much slower than the 2-second stops we are used to today. Although one of the reasons for banning refueling may have been to bring costs down, the most important reason was safety. In such a hectic environment in the pit lane, there is a lot of potential for fire to break out. Max Verstappen's father, Jos, was famously engulfed in flames during a pit stop up at the 1994 German Grand Prix. The video shows fuel splashing all over Joss and the car as a mechanic tries to pull off the oil rig before everything ignites. A year later in Belgium 1995, Eddie Irvine's Jordan also caught fire in the pit lane. The car was just starting to pull away before flames burst out all over the car. It was extinguished pretty quickly, but it once again showed the dangers of having fuel in such a fast-paced environment. Now we have eco-driving. Speaking of fuel, the next generation of Formula One could be run on entirely sustainable fuels. The days when Formula One was attacked by environmentalists are almost over because the sport is moving towards eco-friendly alternatives. This year, the cars are already running on what's called E10 fuel, which is a combination of 90% fossil fuel and 10% renewable ethanol. According to Formula One, the goal is to move from 10% renewable to 100% renewable over the next few years. The way to achieve this is through using carbon from waste instead of fossil fuels. Things like agricultural or municipal waste could be recycled from the carbon to create fuel. Imagine the trash from your house ending up in a Mercedes F1 car. Another innovation that F1 is considering is what is known as carbon capture, which involves extracting carbon directly from the air. Now, it sounds a little too complicated to understand for us non-scientists, but the technology is still being developed and is a real possibility in the future. This is the type of technology that can be useful for road cars in the future, especially in a world facing the effects of climate change. So don't worry about the pressure to make everything more eco-friendly. It sounds like F1 have got it covered. Lastly, rubber and Kevlar fuel tanks. Fire safety is a major concern for all motorsports. With so much fuel being carried on board, the potential for it catching fire in an accident is very high. 70 years ago, Formula One fuel tanks were made of aluminum and were positioned just behind where the driver sits. Then in the 1950s, rubber bag tanks were experimented with as a way of reducing the risk of the tank being broken open in the event of a crash. The next piece of innovation was the self-sealing tank that automatically snaps parts of the fuel line to seal the bag and prevent leaking. Now the fuel tank is made of military-grade Kevlar, which is the same material that is used to make bulletproof vests. So if there's ever a shootout on the track, you can be sure that none of the cars will be going up in flames. The combination of rubber and Kevlar makes the fuel tanks of F1 cars durable, safe, and virtually indestructible. Formula One is always at the forefront of technological innovation, and that's why we love it. What piece of technology did you find the most interesting? Leave us a comment below and let us know. Thanks for watching.